Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello, and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Community Relations at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of their brand, marketing, and digital agency, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship.
We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview amazing minds and leaders in the business industry. So, Ray, it's been a crazy week as always. Stress, just about everything that's going on in the world of business. But as you know, I am all about the stress-free zone when it comes to just life and business overall. But I realize that, at some time you have to pour yourself into others, as we talk about this quite often, with you being in FQ and working with nonprofits, and we must serve our community, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector. So I'm really excited about our guest today.
Oh, same here, yeah. Helping provide us with business empowerment today is Siela Bynoe, and she is the Nassau County Legislator for the 2nd Legislative District. Siela, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me, Ray and Donyshia. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, same here. Same here. Now, tell us a little bit about how you got started in becoming a legislator.
Well, I would tell you that it all was by happenstance, in so much that I had a career in public service, and at some point I was approached about running for the local school board, where I ran twice and served one full term and part of a second term. And the county legislator that I filled his vacancy moved on and suggested that I consider running for the county legislature. And I will tell you that I immediately, when he offered the opportunity for me to look into it, I felt that it was something that I should do. I originally, when he asked me about the school board, I was reluctant, but the legislature, it definitely appealed to me because of the many facets of the government services that the county provides, whether it be public safety or human services or in vending and contracting and helping small businesses. So I was really excited about the opportunity.
And what about your experience before that? What were you doing before you became a legislator?
It's what I actually still currently do. I'm executive director for the town of Huntington Housing Authority.
Oh,
and
okay.
So, yeah, I run a small public corporation, and we provide low-income housing by way of either a Section 8 voucher or by providing an actual, bricks and mortar. We have 2 sites where we provide housing. So I'm responsible for the managing of, the daily operation, as well as program implementation for and administration of the Section 8 program.
That's amazing. And real estate as a whole in Long Island has been a topic of discussion in the news recently. But we're just going to ask you for some tips that you would give anyone out there trying to secure mortgage counseling or credit for a loan. Just your top tip that you would give anyone listening during these times.
Oh, during this time, I would tell you, absolutely, you hit the nail on the head, mortgage counseling. Prior to being appointed to the housing authority and doing the public service work, I was working for a not-for-profit, Long Island Housing Partnership. And my role there was to provide mortgage counseling. So I definitely encourage everyone to, do mortgage counseling, but I also recommend that you look for grants that would assist in down payment assistance, or grants that would help with closing costs. There are programs out there that actually could even assist in reducing your interest rate. So I say, definitely do mortgage counseling, but also do your homework and your research for grant opportunities.
You're just a wealth of knowledge, and we're really excited just to have you share with the listening audience today. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
How does the layperson kind of figure out how do they engage your services, and how do they start to look into some of those grants?
So honestly, the best thing to do is to contact one of many housing development and housing services not-for-profits on Long Island. I mentioned Long Island Housing Partnership because that's where I worked, but there's also CDC of Long Island. There are a variety of different housing not-for-profit organizations that could assist you in navigating those programs and grants. And folks should also contact their local counties, because both Nassau and Suffolk have grant opportunities for housing homeowners, or I should say prospective homeowners.
Now, a lot of what you touch is, housing, also education. You're on the school board for many, many years, and that's key to the youth of our community. And I read somewhere that during your tenure, the graduation rate increased by 10%. How are people faring right now during COVID? What are some of the concerns, and what's the word on the street, so to speak?
Yeah. So, listen, we're learning through this pandemic, or I shouldn't even say learning. It's actually the issues are bubbling up to the top, right? About the disparities in certain communities, whether it be health or education. Bottom line is that what we're hearing is that, some young people who might be from certain districts are finding it difficult to get their hands on the technology, right? The districts aren't able to, provide the laptops. Many of the school districts in the surrounding neighborhoods, I live in the village of Westbury, Jericho is directly to my east. Those kids, in most cases, had iPads or computers given to them by the district anyway. So when they had to go to virtual learning, it wasn't such a hard, a transition for them. So what we're finding is that a lot of districts found it difficult in the beginning to get the kids the technology into the kids' hands, and then get them familiarized with the technology. And then working remotely is a challenge. I'm hearing from parents and students alike that it can be challenging. But I'm also hearing that some of our young learners are actually doing a little bit better with the remote learning, because it allows them some flexibility in their schedule to do homework and the like. So what I'm learning is that our young people are rising to the challenge. They're getting familiar with their technology. The teachers are, they're doing a great job. They're excelling in putting together their learning plans. And I've actually been afforded an opportunity to push into one of those virtual learning classes and speak to the students. And it was awesome. It was awesome to see them hard at work and familiarizing themselves with the technology, and even helping me along the way during the presentation. So I'm hearing good things. And
that's the thing. I feel like everyone learns differently. So, what might work in the classroom for a lot of folks, it may not work as well, and they might require, some flexibility with how they're learning. So I almost feel like this did, as you said, it made the issue kind of bubble to the surface. And now people are saying, all right, well, there is a different way to do things. Maybe we can employ that technology better, or maybe we can use it. So, one of the silver linings for sure.
Absolutely. Once we can get the technology into the hands of the students, I think good things will come from it.
And another touch point for you is economic development. We talk about, the students having disparities with technology. A lot of businesses are either pivoting to virtual or, heavy hit during this time. What are some of your priorities and things that you're focusing on for business owners?
Yeah, so for business owners, we see that, especially for the minority business, the MWBEs, we're finding that, we have hundreds of MWBEs that are here right in Nassau County, right? And but they're not necessarily always aware of, these contracting opportunities or how to access the information regarding contracting opportunities with the county. And so our our work has, as our, meaning the legislature, collectively have been able to reduce the fees for people to access that information. And I've worked with my colleagues to put on forums so that we could educate the business community around MWBE contracting with the county government. In addition, I partnered with some of the local municipalities and some of the public corporations and had them come in as well and provide information about their contracting process. So it's really been an initiative around awareness and also then education. I'm going to be working with the Office of Minority Affairs in 2021 to put on yet another educational forum. It'll be virtual, but they're necessary, and we want to make sure that we continue to educate folks about these opportunities. And then we also want to make sure that we leverage the playing field, right? We want to make sure that people aren't finding obstacles to be able to participate. So one of the things is that I filed some legislation that would have allowed for bonding, contracting. When you come in and you're doing construction, you have to get a security bond to do that construction. That bond sometimes is prohibitive. Just to pay that fee, it's prohibitive for people to get involved in county construction contracts. So I'd like to see a day where the county, acknowledges that legislation and that we're able to provide a vehicle for folks to be able to roll that expense into their agreement with the county, so that the county basically pays it up front for them. And then as the county then pays them for the work, they take a percentage of that to pay themselves back for that bond security, the surety bond. So there are programs like that around the country, and especially our neighbor to the west, New York City, has something similar. And so I've been working, trying to bring that here to Nassau County.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Siela Bynoe, Nassau County Legislator of the 2nd Legislative District. So Siela, obviously you're very passionate about your work. It definitely comes through as you're talking to us. What is it that you enjoy most about what you do? Impacting
lives, folks that are in need of government services, making sure that they have the access to the government services. I think constituent services is the cornerstone of leadership. And so in this role, so we have folks that will call our office with a myriad of issues, and to be able to get involved with our constituents and then interface with our partners in government and resolve these issues. Those are the ones that I think that's what drives me to get up every day and have me reading emails at 5:00 in the morning. We want to make sure our constituents get the services they need, and most important, we want to make sure that they feel, protected and served.
Yes, and Ray, and I like to say, Legislative Bynoe is a friend of the show, a friend of Keeper of the Brand, and pushing small businesses forward. So when I hear about your legislation, will actually help small businesses in the construction industry from not only, we focus on a capacity standpoint, but that business cash flow for small businesses for major contracts is impeding. But once you break through, you're able to not only push your business forward, but provide jobs.
Absolutely.
Some of these districts, some of these Section 3 districts, and then overall across Long Island and New York as a whole. So that, I will tell you, is just a phenomenal piece of legislation that you're pushing out there. And I look forward to it coming to life. And
Thank you.
Success stories.
Thank you.
There has to be a lot of misconceptions about what you do. I mean, does the general public really know what your day-to-day is kind of like? What do you find is the biggest misconceptions about what you do?
There's so many. Unfortunately, I'm in a profession that in some, households or communities, it's not highly, favored. They think politicians are just out for themselves, and that they believe that, politicians are self-serving, and that we're only doing things so that we can promote ourselves. And I would tell you that I prefer to be called a public servant. It's almost like when they call me a politician, I almost cringe. I believe that some of the misconception has come from bad actors in the field. And I think that the only thing that I can do as a person in this role is just continue to just be consistent, right? Be consistent, be approachable, be accessible, and be responsive. And I pride myself in, having excellent constituent services, and I pride myself in understand and being very clear that every donation you receive or every donation that's offered is not necessarily, all money is not good money, right? So I've turned down donations because I don't want to be conflicted when I need to make decisions. And so I think a lot of people think we're just out here for the money. We're out here for, the fame. But if you're doing this job right, you know that it's not about fame or fortune. It's about serving your district.
It's interesting you say that, because I thought about you during the election period in November, because as I looked at my ballot, I went down, the rows, and I was saying, and I said, Siela's not on here, but I can tell, I know who I know, and I can put a check mark next to their name without second guessing. And if you were on that ballot, you would have been one of those people in November. You weren't up for election, but there were some people on there that I was hard hit to check by their name because they're invisible, but they may come around during election. And I will say that you are someone who was boots on the ground, 24 days, 24/7, 365. And that for me makes all the difference in our community and in the towns that we live in. So I think that is a testament to your work and the things that you're doing in the community.
I appreciate that. Myself, along with a very dedicated staff.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's a lot of memorable moments, I'm sure, in your career. Are there a few that really kind of stand out to you that you go, all right, well, that's why I get up in the morning. That's why I do what I do. Any ones that really stand out to you?
There are several. And I'll tell you what is the common denominator around the events that I can think of very, very quickly, is that they were community motivated and the community was engaged around the issues as well. When you're out here in the fight and you look to your left, you look to your right, you look behind you, in front of you, and you see your community out there fighting with you, the momentum will carry you. And it's just very, very heartwarming. And one of those scenarios, I'll use this one because it was in the community where Donyshia lives. There was a point where she's in a newly developed area of town development, and it's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Post development, there's some, transactions that are supposed to happen between the developer and the municipal government to convert those roads from private roads to municipal roads, so that the municipal government can come in and move their snow. And there was some things going on that didn't materialize, so that, and there was a point in time, and I don't know if Donyshia knows this, but I was away on vacation. And I learned that we had a blizzard of, I think, about at least a foot of snow, if not more. And I learned from down in St. Kitts, I was in the Caribbean, and I learned that community had not been plowed because the developer and the municipal government had some disconnect. And from down there, I got on the line and we started a process, and that community supported, well, not even support, they led the charge, and I supported them, and we got the wheels turning so that we could make sure that they would not be in that position again. And it was one of those winters where we had more snow than we ordinarily would. And so it seemed like almost every other week, here came more snow. And the folks, I didn't want them worrying about whether they would be able to get out to go to work, or if there was an emergency, if somebody could come in and get them. So that's one of the ones that sticks out for me. But it's always when community's with you on your stance.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Siela A, Nassau County Legislator for the 2nd District. My name is Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Now I'll tell you, Legislator Bynoe, since you brought that up. I live in a community, a newly developed community. Now it's about 11 years old and 53 homes. But from step by step, when there were challenges, as new developments do have often, Siela A and her and all of Nassau County eased the minds of the residents to say, some are from New York City and you made the move to Long Island, and you made the right decision to raise your family here and to have a home here. And because of her voice and her actions, that kept a lot of people here. Because of the 53 homes, I think we had some people who, decided to move to Atlanta or move back to New York City because they were retiring and they had no children in the school district. But it was never moving out because they were underserved. And that was, I think, for us in this community here, knowing that we can have contact with our legislator, whether it's snow or water or any issues we have, we are an active community and they respond to us. And I think they respond to everyone because you do a fantastic job. So thank you again. And we are so happy that for the work you do and the accomplishments that you have. We see some of your legislation and letters on your website. And I'll just say that it just runs the gamut where you're looking at vendor disclosure, land bank, employees' time off, dashboard, body cam programs. There's a lot of, you have your hands in a lot of things. So how do you decide what topics to take on?
Great question. A lot of times it just comes from listening to your community, right? Folks will come to you and they express concern around certain issues. And my job is to solve those issues. And if there's not something currently in place that can remediate those issues, then my job is to try and create a law so that we can address issues. But there are certain issues that I think are almost benchmark issues for me in my during my tenure that I continue to, they're multi-pronged. So I continue to just keep building on them, mental health being one of them. Initially, it started out with me trying to train, making sure that people in the community, whether they were soccer coaches or teachers or pastors in a church, got trained in mental health first aid so that they could aid the community that they served. And then it bubbled up that I wanted to make sure that the police officers were getting that training. So then we started a program to make sure that the cadets got trained. And then I initiated another prong to make sure that every public-facing Nassau County employee is trained in mental health first aid. So whether if you're public-facing, you're working in a park, you see someone exhibiting some signs, you have an ability to de-escalate, you have an ability to do the proper referral and get them the help that they need. So some of the issues, I touch over and over and over, but many of them are birthed out of just having real conversations with my constituents and understanding the needs and the concerns.
Now we're on the cusp of things starting to kind of loosen up. I mean, although cases continue to climb, you do see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel with vaccines and so forth. I mean, the pandemic's been very tough for us all. And I think all of us are kind of looking ahead for what's going to happen in the new year. So can you tell us a little bit about what's next for you and for what's going on with your team?
So in light of the pandemic, right, I started looking at some of the disparities and we looked at, folks with asthma and, all these other conditions that, that will my goodness, the having had diseases like diabetes and asthma and things like that predisposed you to having higher risk of fatality for COVID, I decided that I needed to start looking at the environmental impacts for communities, that, especially those that might be seated close to a industrial park, for where these contaminants are actually making their way into their homes. And so I actually am working now with the county's IDA, Industrial Development Agency, to find opportunities to give businesses that are in these industrial areas, or even in other areas in the county, an opportunity to have some tax incentives to reduce their carbon footprint and reduce contaminants being, released into the air or even into our waterways. So that's the current work that I'm doing. And I believe that we're going to be rolling out something very soon, and it will be able to assist not only, communities that are impacted by the contaminants, but again, as Donyshia mentioned, it'll help small businesses who, or businesses that are grappling, trying to, produce a product, but also be responsible as a citizen and as a neighbor.
Now, Legislative Bynoe, what are some final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with today, and how can people contact your office? Okay,
so final thoughts would be, we have more road ahead of us than behind us, I think, with COVID. And so final thoughts is that I just wish everybody well. I hope that everybody will be disciplined and responsible during this time. Just keep, I saw a sign today that said, have one ask, wear a mask. And so that is definitely one of the things that I want to share, is that we can get through this together. And that if folks are feeling stressed, during this time, it's a lot to self-isolate, and you might have some economic impacts, that, please, utilize all of the mental health services that are available to us here. And please know that you can contact me by calling my office at 516-571-6202, or you can email me at sbynoe@NassauCountyNY.gov.
Thank you so much, Siela. And thank you so much for being on the show today. A pleasure to have you on. Thank you for sharing everything that you're doing for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye now.
I'll leave you with DB's philosophy. Try not to become a person of success. Rather, become a person of value.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-hosts and producers. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available on iHeartRadio as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.